Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for watching. I got you guys on a brand new camera today. How's it look? It actually might not be the best image quality because my nice lens hasn't even came in the mail yet, so it should look fine. It looks all right on the flip out screen here. But today's video I thought of a couple weeks ago, and I thought I want to bring out all my guns and try and figure out what is the loudest gun that I own. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever looked into decibel meters that can accurately measure gunfire, but they are hilariously expensive, like thousands of dollars. So that was the route that I intended on going originally, but I quickly realized that just wasn't going to be an option. So I went ahead and picked this up. It's obviously a much cheaper version, and this one actually maxes out at about 130 decibels. Now, from what I read online, gunfire can go much higher than that. That's probably why those meters are so much more expensive. But if you notice, we're out here in a wide open field, and there's just no way that we would ever be able to do this 100% scientifically. So I've done a couple experiments with a couple of these guns, and we're getting much lower numbers, and we're not even close to maxing this one out. So I think this will work just fine for what we want to do. And I'm aware that the actual decibel number that we get is not going to be accurate, but that's not my goal with this video. My goal is just to compare all of these guns and try and figure out which ones are louder and which ones are quieter, and I think this will do that just fine. Now, there's obviously tons of different factors that go into making a video like this, and that's why I'm telling you guys now that this is not scientific, but high-pitched sounds, low-pitched sounds, they travel differently. The wind could be a factor. Just being outdoors in general is probably a pretty big factor. And I've noticed in the experiments that I've done that just a couple numbers difference on this thing is actually a pretty big difference in terms of sound that I'm getting from these guns. So keep that in mind. And my goal here is just to pretend you're standing next to me and I'm shooting each of these guns. Which one is going to sound the loudest to you? And I think this should be good enough to give us that result. So let's get started. All right, so I've got my sound meter on a tripod right behind me, and I have a camera pointed down at the screen. So hopefully if the sun isn't too bright, we'll be able to see those numbers on that camera. And I was going to do different types of ammo within each caliber, but I don't think there's going to be a big enough difference for it to really mean anything. So I'm basically just going to start with the guns that I think will be quietest and then work our way up to the louder ones as we go. And I'm going to put the muzzle as close as I can to that microphone without shooting it off, obviously, and try and make this as consistent as possible. So we're going to start with the 22 long rifle out of the Ruger 1022. All right, so the Ruger 1022 gave us 85.1. So now I'm gonna try the 22 long rifle again, but this time I'm gonna shoot it out of a tiny little Taurus 22 pistol. So let's see if there's a difference. All right, so the little 22 pistol gave us 86.4, so that's about a decibel and a half louder than what we got from the Ruger 1022. And remember what I said, just 1 or 2 decibels out here is quite a big difference. And I actually forgot to wear ear pro for those last two, and that was a very big difference. I didn't even realize I didn't have earplugs in when I shot the rifle, but that pistol rang my ears really good. So definitely quite a bit louder than the rifle. Next, I'm gonna shoot the 380 ACP out of the little Sig Sauer P290. All right, the 380 gave us 89.9, which is like 3.5 decibels higher than the 22 caliber pistol, but that doesn't really surprise me. Them little 380s are super loud, and I've shot a lot of guns without ear pro on, which obviously isn't very smart, but sometimes those 380s I feel like ring my ears even more than a 9mm for some reason. I'm not sure if maybe it's the size of the barrel. They're usually pretty small guns, but the 380 quite a bit louder than the 22. So now let's try the 9mm out of the Glock 17. All right, the 9mm out of the Glock 17 gave us a 90.4, I believe. So let's shoot the exact same bullet out of the Glock 43 and see if it's any louder. Next, let's try the 40 Smith & Wesson out of the Glock 23. Now this is a steel case round, so I'm not sure if this will be a little bit underpowered and might be a little quieter. I guess we'll find out. So the 40 was actually a little quieter than the 9mm out of the Glock 43, but like I said, that was a steel case round, so sometimes they tend to be underpowered. Next, let's shoot the 45 ACP out of the 1911. So far, the Glock 43 is still sitting on top at 91.4, so it might be a velocity thing. I know the 9mm is going a little faster than the 45, so maybe that is making it just a little bit louder. I'm not really sure. Next, let's try the 45 again, but this time out of the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, which is also a subcompact gun about the same size as the Glock 43. So let's see how it does. So my glasses just broke when I shot that Smith & Wesson Shield, so I don't know what that's about, but I don't have any others out here, so I'm just gonna tuck it behind my headphones. But the 45 out of the Smith & Wesson Shield is the new leader at 91.6, so just barely louder than the Glock 43, but that's not surprising to me. It actually sounds quite a bit louder, to be honest with you. And like I said, the smallest little differences on this sound meter are actually pretty big in person. So next, let's try the 357 SIG out of the Glock 23. This gun has a ton of blast. I've done a video on this before, but as far as the actual sound, I'm not really sure how loud it is. I just remember it having a bunch of concussion and a really big cloud of smoke coming out of the muzzle. So let's see what this does. So the camera that I have facing the sound meter died like simultaneously as I pressed the trigger on the 357 SIG. So it did show it, but it froze. So just to show you guys again, we got a 91.7 from the 357 SIG. So 0.1 louder than the 45 out of the Smith & Wesson Shield. So if we were doing this the right way, it would probably be like a couple full decibels louder. But with our little inaccurate meter here, the loudest pistol that we shot was the 357 SIG at 91.7. So let's move on to rifles. All right, next we're gonna shoot the 5.56 out of my AR-15. And I'm kind of curious to see how this sound meter handles this one, because to your ear, these rifles sound a lot louder than any of those pistols that we shot. So I'm kind of curious to see how big of a difference this is gonna show us. So let's see. So that AR-15 said 91.5, which is actually not as loud as the 357 SIG. So I even shot it 2 or 3 more times just to be sure, and every single time it gave me exactly 91.5. So like I said, if someone's shooting an AR-15 and you're standing beside them, usually that concussion will hit you quite a bit harder than even a 357 SIG. So I don't know, according to our actual sound meter, the AR-15 wasn't as loud as the 357 SIG. Next, let's try the 5.45x39 out of my AK-74. This one has that 74 break that also puts off a ton of concussion, but I don't know how that will translate into actual sound level, so let's see. Not much different from the AK-74. It gave us a 91.3, so 0.2 decibels quieter than the AR-15. I know for a fact that those rifles, when you're standing next to someone shooting those, that they feel louder than any handgun that I have out here. So I'm not really sure if that has something to do with the pitch of the sound, maybe the high versus low, maybe if it's more concussion that you're feeling off of those rifles or what, but I'm getting super consistent results when I try them over and over and over again. So I don't think that it's an error on my part or the sound meter that we have. So I don't know, let's try the 7.62x39 out of my AK-47. I'm so glad that that just happened. I was gonna be so disappointed if I came out here and did all this and then the loudest gun that I have was a freaking pistol. But the AK-47 just set a new high at 91.8 decibels. So that sounds about right. All right, the final gun that I have out here is the 18-inch 12-gauge shotgun. So first, I'm just gonna shoot some birdshot and we'll see how loud this is. All right, that was a 90.4. Let's try some double-aught buckshot and see if it's any louder. All right, that was a 91.4 from the double-aught buckshot, so definitely a little bit louder than what we got from the birdshot. And finally, I'm gonna shoot a 1-ounce hollow point 12-gauge slug. And you guys know I absolutely hate shooting these slugs because they just kick entirely too hard, but they are pretty loud. So let's see if it's any louder than the double-aught buckshot. Ugh. God, I hate shooting those. All right, so we got a new leader and a winner at 92.2 decibels from the 1-ounce 12-gauge hollow point slug. To be honest with you, as soon as I shot that, I thought to myself, that definitely sounded louder and just felt way more powerful than any of the others that I shot. So this seems to be pretty accurate to me. Now, there might be some kind of scientific evidence out there on why it's not accurate, but as far as just standing here shooting, even with the ear pro on, you can still tell a big difference, and that 12-gauge 1-ounce hollow point slug definitely felt and sounded louder and more powerful than any of the others that we shot all day, for sure. So that is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this terribly unscientific video today, but you guys know the deal, man. I just like to come out here, have fun, shoot guns, bring you guys along, do experiments, do different tests, and see what kind of results we can come up with. Now, I wouldn't do this if I didn't think that the results were somewhat accurate, and I knew coming out here that this could go terribly wrong, but in my opinion, I think that I agree with these results. I really do. I mean, you know when you're shooting guns, which ones sound louder and which ones sound more powerful. And I gotta be honest, the rifles, the first two rifles did kind of surprise me not being as loud as like the 357 SIG. But once we got to the AK and then ultimately the 12-gauge shotgun, yeah, I think I agree with those results. And the bottom line is, every single gun is way too loud to shoot without ear protection on. So I shot those first two 22s with no headphones on, and even that little 22, when I shot that, I was like, dang man, that was actually pretty loud. So if you were to do this the correct way and trying to get the most accurate like decibel number, all these guns would probably register way higher. Like I said, I did some research, and from what it said there, a lot of guns can get upwards of like 160 decibels. So definitely not scientific here, just our little version of redneck science that we do from time to time on the channel. But I had a lot of fun making this video, guys. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up for me. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.